Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential, and today I'm demonstrating how to use a bias binder and an adjustable bias binder foot for your sewing machine. I'll be demonstrating on my Husqvarna Brilliant 75Q sewing machine, and I'll be using the relevant feet for that machine, all of which are available on our website, and I'll pop a link to our website and all the products I use below. We also stock these feet for a wide range of other machines as well, including Brother, Janome, Elna and Pfaff. So if you've got one of those machines, do check out our website and you'll find what you need there. We include compatibility charts on the website so you can check that the feet are compatible with your make and model of machine. But if you have any questions, do just drop us an email. We're always more than happy to help. So let's get started with the video and show you what these fantastic feet can do for your sewing projects. This is a bias binder foot, so I just wanted to show you this because this is a great way to attach binding to the edge of the fabric. It will be top stitched down, but this little foot actually you insert, this is a 1/4 inch binder, so it's a set size, and you insert a 1 inch wide piece of binding into this little groove, tunnel, whatever you want to call it here. That feeds through and it folds it. It comes underneath the foot there, and then you can stitch it in place with a top stitch, and it will, you slip your main fabric in between where the binding's folded, and as you stitch it secures it to that main piece of fabric. It works in a very similar way, or pretty much exactly the same way actually, as the cover stitch bias binder, which is amazing if you sew with jersey a lot. It will give you a super professional finish to neck lines on jersey fabrics, and I did a tutorial on that on the vlog ages ago. I'll pop a link to that below because that's an awesome tool as well if you like to sew knits and you've got a cover stitch machine. But let me just show you this option for the sewing machine first. So I've got a piece of 1 inch wide binding that I've cut here. Sometimes it's a bit easier if you've got a diagonal on the end like that to feed it through, because what you do is you just feed that into the end of the foot like so. You might need, it can be a bit fiddly, you might need a pin or a pair of tweezers just to pull it through the other end. I've managed to do that because it's on the diagonal, it just makes it a little bit easier. And then as I pull that through, you can see it's folding it all in one. So then all I have to do as I sew is just insert my fabric in the gap there, and as I sew that will top stitch the binding down to the edge of the fabric. So I'll just show you that now. Before I start sewing as well, I should have just mentioned that this, I'm sewing on the Husqvarna Brilliant 75Q, and this is a foot that fits, I think, machine groups, I think it's 1 to 7. I'll pop a link to it below, and all that information is on the website anyway. But we do stock these for a wide range of brands. We've got Janome, Brother, Pfaff, Husqvarna. So do jump on and have a look, because we've probably got one for your make and model of machine. Just check the compatibility charts to make sure it's compatible. So there's a little hole in the foot just in front of where it attaches, which is common to most sewing machine feet, and I've just put the thread through there. And it's always wise to work with a piece of binding that's longer than you need, so that you can get started and just get it through like I've done. The other thing to mention as well is you could use this to finish in the round, but it can be quite tricky to do that. What the other option to do is to leave some long ends and leave a little gap if you're sewing in the round, like round an armhole or a neckline, and then finish it off manually at the end if you want to. But as with all of these things, just have a go, try it out, see how it feels for you. So now I'm just going to insert the fabric that I want to attach the binding to into the foot. So I'm going to make sure that it's pressed right up against the edge of the foot inside of this sort of little tunnel. And then it can be a little bit fiddly, but once you get going it's super easy. So I've just inserted that in there. I'm just going to start sewing, and as I sew it will feed the fabric through. So, and then if you just sort of hold your fabric at a bit of an angle like this, it'll feed through nicely. And just keep sewing, keep making sure everything's in the correct position. Make sure your fabric's butted up against the inside of the foot. And just, you know, take it easy. If it's the first time you've used it, just take your time. And you can see there what a lovely, neat finish that is. Super easy, so much easier than doing it manually. It's caught all of the edges. It just looks absolutely lovely. So what a great little tool that is. And as I said, you can find these in different sizes for a wide range of different machines on our website, and I'll pop links to those below. This is an adjustable bias binder foot, so this foot will allow you to sew multiple widths of bias binding, anything from 1/4 inch to 1 inch finish width of bias binding on your sewing machine. So it won't actually fold the fabric. You can't just insert unfolded bias cut strips into this foot like you could in the previous one I showed you. You do need to insert folded bias. However, this foot will allow you to sew multiple widths of bias binding, and it's done by using this little screw mechanism which just moves part of the foot side to side to increase or decrease the width of bias that you're sewing with. So the previous foot folded the bias for you, however, it didn't allow you to sew multiple widths of bias. You would have needed to buy different feet for different widths of bias. So I'm just going to show you how this one works. So you take the foot and then you insert the bias with the folded edge, the raw edges of the bias facing outwards, because then you're going to insert your fabric in between the folds of the bias to sew it together. So we just insert the bias. You can see there's a little C shape here. I'm just going to insert the bias into that C shape and feed it through the foot, underneath the foot, and out the other side like so. And then I'm just going to, when I'm happy that I've got that in the right position, I'm just going to move this screw, just tighten it so that everything's held in place as I'm sewing. Just make sure that's nice and snug. We can tighten that a little bit more. So just keep going until you're happy that everything's nice and snug. I was going the wrong way there for a minute. So that's all in place now. I'm happy with that. I always like to start with a little bit of bias coming out the other end, just to get me started. So I always cut a strip longer than the piece of fabric I'm sewing it to. And then you just want to pop your thread through and under the foot in the usual way. And then I like to put my foot down. I'm using this foot on the Husqvarna Brilliant 75Q, which I've linked below. This is a Husqvarna foot that will fit machine groups 1 to 7. However, we do stock these for a wide range of machines on our website, Brother, Janome, Pfaff, and I'll pop a link below to where you can find them. We do provide compatibility charts with them all, so do check those out to make sure that the feet are compatible with your make and model of machine. But if you've got any questions at all, you can always just give us a call, that's no problem, or drop us an email rather, and we'll be happy to help. So now I'm just going to insert the fabric into that little groove and make sure it's butted right up against the inside, the fold of the bias. And then I'm going to start sewing and just make sure that fabric's butted right up. And you'll see it will start attaching the binding to the fabric. So all you need to do as you sew is just make sure you keep that fabric butted up against the inside of the bias along that centre fold, and stitch. And one of the great things about this machine is that you can alter your needle position. So if I start stitching and think, oh, I'd like to stitch a little bit closer to the edge rather than there, I can move my needle position and stitch closer to the edge. And that's available on lots of sewing machines these days, but it's just a great feature for things like top stitching, attaching bias, sewing zips, places where you want accuracy and precision. It's really, really useful. And lots of the machines have, you know, up to sort of 30 plus needle positions, which is quite mind-blowing really, but they are super, super useful. So I'm just going to carry on stitching now. Just making sure everything, if you need to, you might find that the top edge of your bias starts slipping out a little bit, you know, depending on which angle you're holding it at. Just make sure that that stays in place and that your fabric stays along the fold, and keep stitching. And then as you get towards the end, you can almost just hold it in place as you stitch that last stretch. And you can see there that the binding is neatly attached. And that's the wrong side. Lovely and neatly attached. And you can use zigzag stitches on some of these feet as well. You know, you can mix it up a bit, and like I said, with the needle positions you can choose where your stitching goes. But yeah, a great little tool this is. If you want to create bias, pre-folded bias tape in a range of fabrics, do check out our Simplicity Bias Tape Maker. I'll pop a link to the video for that, but that allows you to create meters and meters of bias tape, pre-folded and pressed. You just insert strips of fabric into the machine and it will come out the end pre-folded, so that might be useful if you're somebody who's really into your bias tape and bias binding. Also, it's worth mentioning that you can get bias binder attachments for cover stitch machines as well. So if you like sewing a lot of jersey fabrics, that's worth checking out. And again, there's a tutorial on our YouTube channel for that, which I'll pop a link below for too. I hope you enjoyed those little demonstrations. As I said at the start of the video, you can find links to all of the products I used and also all of the sewing machine feet and accessories for all the other brands below. If you like what you see today, please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.